Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. We're about to break down for you why some stocks are breaking up and others are breaking down on the Rebel's Edge.
We are ready, John. It's been a great week already. I mean, incredible week, and I'm excited for these final couple of days, man. I mean, well, final day for Rebel's Edge is today, but for the market, today and tomorrow.
That's right, folks. Coming up on December 8th, expiration, because those that have weeklies will expire tomorrow. And this episode 291, by the way. He is Pete Najarian. I'm Jon Najarian, and you're watching and listening to the Rebel's Edge, wherever you may be. Jared is handling all the special effects, the clocks, and everything else. And let's dive right into the macro minute, shall we, Pete?
Let's do it.
First-time jobless claims up to 220,000 versus 218. Jobless claims going up is not great, but the Fed may take a different view of that, Pete.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, my macro side of it, John, is just this whole thing going on in the crypto space. And I'm talking about Robinhood saying, you know what? You guys aren't ready to go. We're going to go. We're going over to the EU. And by the way, we're going to figure something out about crypto trading and the services we've got over there. Some point in 2024, we're going to see it here, John. Nobody knows exactly when, but we figure probably first quarter, maybe second quarter at the latest, I would think. But right now, these guys are making a very bold move. And I think from a macro perspective, it tells us that as good as we are here in the U.S., there is the rest of the globe as well.
Well, you know what we always hit next, Pete? Fantastic futures.
Indeed.
Fantastic futures.
Well, mortgage rates are back down, Pete, towards 7%. And keep in mind, folks, this is, so in other words, I guess I'm talking about the 10-year. But, Pete, the fact that the rates have fallen this much, basically 90 basis points from over 5 to now 4.10, means that mortgage rates are basically right around 7 again, and they may keep dipping even a little more without the Fed doing anything except pausing.
Well, the ITB hit a record high yesterday, so that kind of plays right into it as well, John. We're talking about construction side of things. But how about this? And a few weeks ago, I was talking about sugar futures. Well, you look at sugar futures at the end of November 27th, they were trading in the 27s. You know where they are now? They're not higher. They're going a little bit lower. They're down towards 23. I just find that to be pretty interesting. They're back to the lowest levels of July. It'll be interesting to see because we talk about crude, we talk about Bitcoin, we talk about a lot of these various things. Sugar we also cover, and there is some movement there as well, John.
Oh, heck yeah. There's a lot of movement in that in particular, Pete. And a lot of movement in Semtech, Pete, because SMTC was up 10, then 19%, then 22%, and it's still hovering around 20% right now. They're a mixed signal semiconductor player. Came out with quarterly earnings, 2 cents a share, beating the consensus estimate of a loss of 15. In other words, they broke and they're in the black now, Pete. That's pretty good news for any company that's been projected to post losses to actually post a gain.
And it gives the stock an opportunity to actually get a little bit more of a lift. I mean, when you look at the 52 weeks, it's been somewhere as low as 13. It's been as high as 35. Now sitting there close to $20, maybe a little bit more depending on the moment that you look. Because to your point, this stock has been on fire today. By the way, massive shorts. You don't think there's a short squeeze going on here? I would say there is. It's plus 20% in terms of the short interest of this name. That, I think, is working in their favor as well. Plus the fact, as you mentioned, John, you beat on the earnings side of things where you were expected to lose, but all of a sudden you beat and you actually beat and you're in positive territory. This is a big win today for Semtech.
Oh, yes. And again, we're not rooting for the Bulls or the Bears, folks. We're just reporting what's happening. And I guarantee you a lot of those Bears are feeling the pain right now of being on that short side. All right, Chewy, Pete. came out with quarterly earnings, 15 cents a share. They were only expected to earn 9. So you'd say, well, that must be pretty good. And their consensus share estimates were missed, however, Pete, on the going forward numbers. And for that reason, the stock that's down 50% year to date, people were bailing on it. It opened at $17. You know where it is now? $19.10. It's almost back to unchanged, Pete. So it went from a loss of 15% to closing in that close to a gain on the day.
Well, it is amazing sometimes just to watch how these things can play out, Jon, and obviously some of the changes that are going on there. I got to give a lot of credit to the Oppenheimer analyst who back in September went from a buy to a hold. Now, he didn't go negative. He just went to a hold. And the reason behind this was felt like some of the spend was starting to kind of slow down based upon the economy and so forth. And, he was also talking about the failure to attract new customers. So I think all of that tends to be true based upon what we're hearing today. But all that being said, this is a really major turnaround, Jon. Like you said, I mean, this stock was getting hammered. People were getting a little bit frightful, I think. But those sales numbers were pretty good. They were up 8%. And I think people finally are starting to embrace the fact that it's not all bad. It's maybe not great yet, but the turn is coming. And maybe this thing can start to get a little bit more movement to the upside.
Well, it's certainly making a big turnaround, making a case basically, Pete, for a significant bounce. So yet another stock that might have a little too heavy on the short side. All right, let's talk about the number one loser of the day. And that might be CXM, Pete, because they are down 31% at mid-session. Sales, yeah, they surpassed and surprised with sales, but the contracts that they get, the ones that they win, that they sign customers up with, Pete, way down, not growing as fast as expected. And for that reason, even though revenue is up 18% year over year, that wasn't enough because they're going, well, if the customers are not endorsing your product as fast as they did before, maybe we need to see this thing ease back, and it ain't easing, it's falling.
It's got a solid balance sheet to it, Don. So from that perspective, that's very good. But to your point, and this comes down to guidance, like we always talk about, what is the guidance? The guidance is deceleration. That's never a word you want to hear anywhere in any kind of an earnings, but that's what we're seeing here. A little bit of a slowdown, a little bit of a decline, deceleration. Those are all the types of expressions or words that you don't want to hear on an earnings call. That's why this stock is getting absolutely hammered today. This isn't like some of them, though. It's not a stock where you're looking at it and you're saying, well, they've got the shorts here. They've got this going on. You're concerned about the balance sheet and everything else. You're not concerned about that. But deceleration is never a good thing, and that's why I think you're seeing so much pressure on this name today. And it's been in a struggle for a long time, but it was trying to claw its way back. They're giving that back today.
Yeah, in a big way, Pete.
Yeah.
All right, and they were up against 52-week high just a couple days ago, Pete.
Yeah.
So to see it crash down this hard, this fast, is pretty depressing for the longs. Okay, AI. This is 3C.AI. Guess what they do with a name like that, Pete? They plunge on earnings. Now, even though the stock posted a smaller than expected loss, and we all know Pete likes to see a profit, smaller than expected loss, nonetheless, they're getting hit because they missed Wall Street targets and they offered a sales outlook, in other words, guidance, that was below expectations. That's why stock's down double digits right here, Pete.
Below expectations, never something you want to hear. I mean, we've talked about this on multiple stocks today, but this is where we are right now in this particular part of the earnings season. And, when you've got minimal growth and it's something where you're in the category of major growth, that's not so great because we talk about AI. Every company out there now, Jon, I don't care who it is, they go, well, we do have an AI piece to this whole thing during their earnings calls. Well, this one is AI, and they are struggling a little bit right now. And because of that, they're getting punished. I mean, this is one of the names that people look to, and you expect growth that is absolutely outrageous. And if you're not hitting those kind of levels, that's not good enough. And people are going to start slamming it. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. What is it, down 10, 11%, something like that, John?
Exactly. Down 11%, Pete. And let me see how much the bail is right now at mid-session, Pete. Yeah, it's 17 million versus 7 million on a normal day. So it's more than double the turnover of a full session, and we're only halfway through. So there are definitely some folks, and we'll give the Bears credit for this one, Pete, because we've cited a couple stocks where maybe the Bears feasted a little too long and got fat and happy and stuck with that short too long and they got stabbed. Well, this is one where they're feasting yet again, down 11%. All right, Rebels Edge Red Zone Sports, Pete. What do you got?
I thought we're not going to our little video.
Well, yeah, we are. Let's take a look at John Malkovich and see what John Malkovich is saying, representing Florida State here, Pete.
What the fuck is this? Whose ass didn't I kiss? Huh? Let's be honest. Okay. I mean, let us be fucking honest. This is a crucifixion. This is
colorful,
political.
man.
And don't tell me it's not. What the fuck is this? Whose ass didn't I kiss?
Yeah, I guarantee those words were said, Pete, probably by every Florida State fan.
Yeah.
Because they're like, okay, we're 13-0. We get it. You think we're the little sisters of the poor, and that's the teams that we played too, by the way. But Alabama, you played some teams we don't even know where they are.
You can't find them on a map.
Yeah, I bet you, Pete, between Michigan and Alabama, I could name several teams that you couldn't tell me what state they play in. I mean, that's how small these teams were. And yeah, they won 58-3 or something, and everybody got to play. That's great. But I'm still a little upset, Pete, about Florida State being pushed out for one-loss teams like Texas and Bama.
Yeah, there is something to be said for that. I think there's arguments on all sides that can make some sense, though, John. I'm actually still on the side of, okay, you're a great football team, 13-0, but the problem is that you don't have the whole team there. And when you're missing certain players, I think sometimes that can be pretty putting you into a spot, especially they'll have the second string quarterback, but the third string quarterback, if he has to get in there, they've got problems, John. And I'm not even so sure even with the second string quarterback. The good news is this. Aren't they playing Georgia in the bowl game? If that game goes the way I think it might go, maybe a lot of folks are going to say, well, maybe they got it right. That'll be another measuring point, I think, for people as well. So we'll see how that whole thing. All right, going back to the sports side of it, John, how about the NFL? And what we talk about all the time, all year long, we've talked about it in college football as well, parity, right? There's only one team as of right now in the NFL that has already found themselves in a spot where they have no chance of getting anywhere, right? That's the Carolina Panthers. Other than that, you start looking around, John, everybody's eligible. We're 12 weeks into this season, and everybody outside of Carolina is eligible to be still in the playoff hunt. I think that's pretty amazing. Says a lot about the sport, says a lot about what they do to try to make it as close to parity as they can. We know there are some great teams. So I thought it would be kind of fun, John, right here, right now, you and I are going to call the Super Bowl teams. And I'm going to give you this. The San Francisco 49ers are somewhere in the top 3, 4, or 5 in almost every single category you can name, offense and defense. So because of that, I'm putting them in for the NFC. I know we got Philly. I know we got Dallas. I get it. There are some very good teams. What we've seen from San Francisco of late tells me that these guys are starting to get to that level where you want to be, the trajectory you want to be at when you're getting in and near the playoffs. So I think I put them as my NFC team. My AFC team, I'm still all over Baltimore. I think there's a lot of different teams out there that could potentially get there. But when I look at what you've got at the quarterback position and then you flip it over to the defense and you go, lights out. I mean, this is the NFL where it's all about scoring, right? It's all about offense, and they take every advantage a defensive player can have, they take it away. And yet these guys are holding teams to like 14 points a game or 15 points a game. They are unbelievable on both sides of the ball, but particularly on the defensive side. So those are my two that I'm going to say right now, they're in the Super Bowl.
I'm going to say, Pete, that the AFC is a very interesting group to watch. I'm going to say Dolphins and Ravens. So I'm with you on the Ravens, but boy, that Dolphin-Raven matchup is pretty damn strong. And I'll just throw this out there as a shocker to some folks. The team that Pete and I have been talking about forever, the Texans, are 10-7. They are this close. They're one game behind the Ravens, Pete. They are that close right now. And so the other one with Flacco back there for Cleveland, they got a shot.
Yep.
So I'm just going to say that that's pretty exciting. And of course, the Chiefs have a shot, but they're not playing like they've played in the past. So if I had to pick one, yeah, I'd pick Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. But otherwise, Tua and the Dolphins, Pete, looking pretty good on the AFC side. NFC, Dallas finally beat a team with a winning record, Seattle. Now they got to go and beat Philly, who was embarrassed by the 49ers. 49ers went in there and just kicked you-know-what. So if the Cowboys can win their, Pete, that makes this, the NFC East, more interesting. But the Cowboys will still be down 1 to the Eagles. But obviously, they are one of the teams to watch if they're able to go in there and win. Dak has been playing like Dak has never played before. So if Prescott can do it, they can get in there. But I agree. San Francisco's team to beat, and I don't see anybody beating them unless Purdy went down like last year.
And your call on Miami is a good one. I considered them as well. And the only reason I picked Baltimore over Miami was the defensive side. The absolute dominance of defense with Baltimore versus a decent defense, not a great defense with Miami, but a great offense. Those guys, they got talent everywhere. I don't know how you stop them. The only team that might be able to would be Baltimore, in my opinion. All right, John, we're going to jump over to this Saturday's game. Now, everybody's going to say, what bowl game is it? It's not a bowl game, guys. This is Army-Navy. It happens every year, and they have their own day where they play college football at its finest. And it's unbelievable what they've been able to do and how many years they've been doing it. And they have missed years over a century of football games because of different things having to do with the military oftentimes. But it's exciting. Last year, John, it went to a 2-overtime win for Army, and it's gone back and forth. It's a very close rivalry, so it's a legit rivalry. It's not like one of these where you win 80% and the other team is really struggling. They're almost 50-50. This really is something that's special. They've got their own special day. These guys are the guys that we should respect more than anybody on the planet Earth, are these guys, because of the commitment they make to school, the commitment to sports, the commitment to the country, the commitment of their lives going across the seas and everything else. I think this is going to be fun, and they're starting to move it around a little bit too, John. It's not just in Philly. They're doing this little deal where they're moving it around. They're going to be at Gillette Stadium, but they're going to move it around for the next 3 or 4 years, then come back to Philly again, I think, in 2027. But interesting and fun, and it's just an amazing day, right? Isn't this one of those where you just go, God, thank you. You guys are amazing at what you do.
Yeah, it's fun occasionally watching Ivy League football, Pete, because those kids are studying, then I'm not saying that the kids at Alabama don't study or the kids at Florida State, but these kids, Army, Navy, these young men are committed to, as Pete said, the country, to their teammates. And Pete, how much NIL money are these guys getting?
Yeah. They're sitting there wondering about what's their next spiff for NIL. It's that. Don't even get me started on that. The fact that we've got players making more money than pros, that's where I draw the line and say this is idiotic.
Well, I do love the Army-Navy game. Can't wait for it. And a crisp fall day with Army-Navy on TV, that's a great time.
Yep.
All right. Well, folks, as you know, we do the Rebel's Edge 4 days a week. We take 1 day for travel. And so Pete and I will be back Monday. But before we go, we'll just remind you that we do have marketrebellion.com/get started for any of you who would like to learn more about trading options. If you'd like to learn more about technical analysis and so forth, we also have that. So check it out, marketrebellion.com/get started. See you on Monday, everybody, 1 p.m. Eastern Time.